Hey, it's Joel and welcome back to the Traveler Toolkit Ranch. We have our campsite all set up with the Ember RV right here and the tent next to us. And oftentimes we don't have enough room in our RV for the entire family, so we set up an auxiliary dwelling unit here. But in the middle of July, it can get quite hot. And so the question becomes, how do you deal with that? So I went out searching and I found something from a company called BougeRV that might just make this tent bearable. We're going to test it out together in this video. It is a tent air conditioner. Now, you do have to be able to run an extension cord back to a power source or have a rather large power bank to make this work. But since we normally camp right next to our RV where we already have hookups, it's not a big deal in this scenario. So come along with me as we test this out, see if it's any good, see if the features are worth having, and see if it's something that might enhance your camping experience. All right, so real quickly, let's go over what this thing is and what it is not. This is a portable air conditioner. It's all contained in one right here. It has a power cord and it has controls on the top, but it also has a smart app that you can connect to. It's a pretty simple operation. It draws air in right here through the front, I believe. It exhausts air out the back here, and it blows cold air right out this vent in the front, much in the way all air conditioners do. There are condensers and pumps and everything inside here. We have a hose that will connect to the outlet or the exhaust here so that it blows the hot air out of the tent and cools the inside of the tent. But today we're going to ask ourselves the question, not just does this work, because I have tested it and it does blow cold air, but we're going to ask ourselves the question, would it actually cool down a tent? Because there's no insulation, there's some leakage, some vents. I want to know, will this work to actually cool down the tent and make it tolerable? Because it was 95 degrees on the way here, and it's going to be hotter inside this tent even overnight. So let's get in there and let's test it out. Okay, so you'll see the first thing we did was run our extension cord from the post into our tent. We have a special little extension cord inlet, and a lot of modern tents do. So we can plug it in here and get our power. If you did choose the power bank route, you're going to need quite the capacity to run an air conditioner like this for a while, but you could do it even if you were just looking for temporary relief. Now, because of this exhaust tube and the length that it comes in, we're going to be somewhat limited, I think, in how far away from the door we can go, but we can also test and see just how far away makes the most difference. I kind of think the more centralized you have the unit, the better, but we'll try it close to the wall and then a little further in. But it does extend out quite long. I'd say it's probably 6 to 7 feet long here. So we just would simply stick this out the door of the tent. We're going to zip around it here, and we're going to attach this to the back of the unit. And so it's really pretty simple. I didn't even read the instructions. It does say top right here, and it has these clips that correspond with the clips down here. We simply attach it in here and it clips. Yeah, I didn't really have to do anything. Holds itself in. I assume when we want it out, we're going to press, we press here on the middle to take the pressure off these clips, and it does just come out. So pretty easy to do like that. And here's another angle. Take it out and put it in case you're curious. And before we share any of the results, I want you to go ahead and leave a comment down below and tell me, if this thing works well, would you camp with it? Because that's what really matters. I know some of you out there would never be caught dead with a tent air conditioner, and yet there are some of you that would absolutely love to have something like this if it works. Let us know. And to me, we cannot get this going fast enough because I am sweating up a storm. So I'm going to kind of point this toward the middle of the tent, take the exhaust hose and point it out. Then we're going to zip up our tent just to this corner. Now, we don't have a special exhaust port or anything on this tent. We're just using the door because it has a nice corner. Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. That works really well. Then I'm going to come here and just hit the power button. And we've got a couple different modes to choose from. Okay, you'll see right now we've got it set to 61 degrees. This is like thermostat mode here. And it is blowing out cold air pretty quickly. Now, there are a couple different modes you can choose from. See here, we're just on the snowflake. That's just AC. You can use this button to change. This is kind of a defrost mode, so it says no water. Then this is a nighttime mode, so you can set it to run for a certain amount of time and then kick off. A turbo mode, which I believe when it's on there will give us some extra boost, and then a fan only mode, which you can control the fan speed, F1, 2, and 3. Down here you also have a timer button. Hit timer to reset it. And what I think is really cool is you also have an app. So let's just go to the BougeRV app right here. I have already connected this. I've got a couple other BougeRV devices connected to this. If I click on it, it will give me a readout on what we're doing. And it's a whole lot easier than just using these. So it's using Bluetooth here. So right now you can see we're on fan only. I want to go back to cool. You'll hear the compressor kick back on. And I actually want to go to turbo for a minute. Got the fan on high in turbo. And yeah, we're cranked down to 61. That's as low as it goes. So now we're getting maximum output here. The compressor is now kicking on, but I can control all of these things on the app here. I can work on scheduling, set the number of hours I want it to run if I'm running on a battery bank, cancel that out. And yeah, just in general, monitor everything as well as turn it on and off remotely. And you have the distance of Bluetooth to help you with this. You know, as I've traveled the country in my RV and even traveled some of the world, I can tell you that there are some places that make finding a good connection harder than others. And that's where today's video sponsor, Saely, comes in. Saely's new eSIM can provide you an internet connection wherever you travel in the world, and it can also save you on those expensive roaming fees. To get started, just download their app, and all you're gonna need is an Apple or Android device that's enabled for eSIM technology. Then simply buy a plan and install the eSIM by following the setup instructions in the app. Then once the eSIM is activated, Saely eSIM will automatically connect you to the local network every time you land in a new destination. And right now you can get an exclusive 15% off your first purchase by using my code TRAVELERTOOLKIT. Just go to saely.com/travelertoolkit. If you are a traveler like me, don't be without the connection you need wherever you are in the world. Download the Saely eSIM today and stay connected. Whew, it was really hot outside and it's hot in here, but now that I'm sitting right in front of this, it is pretty refreshing and cool. This thing does put out a lot of air. It's blowing out quite a bit of air. You can probably hear it on the mic. It's drawing it in, I believe, right here, exhausting it out there. You should be able to, yeah, you feel a little bit of warmth on that as it's exhausting the warmer air, but it's going to take a while for us to see if this makes a remarkable difference in here. This is a sizable tent, but I want to let this run for 15 or 20 minutes. I want to go outside and then come back inside to see if I can tell a difference, because going outside to inside before this was noticeable. It was a lot hotter inside. And I almost forgot to mention that you do need to remove this little plug. It's in the back corner here of the unit on the exhaust side. Remove this plug. It is your condensation line, and they give you this clear tubing you can plug in here, especially if you are running from inside your tent. You want to run this to the outside, so you're limited by the length of this. It's about 3 feet, but you do want to make sure that all the condensation the unit is creating goes outside. I believe there's a small internal reservoir, but you want to give it a way to get out, or you could cause some serious issues. And while we could reposition it in the tent, at this point I don't really see a need to. So I'm just going to let it run like this. We have it on turbo. It is the highest setting, and we're just taking the full force of it right here, right now. This feels pretty good, but we want this whole area to fill with some cool air, or it won't really matter, will it? And as I was getting ready to exit, I thought, let's step back into the tent and feel what the breeze is like all the way up against the wall. Now right here, I'm not directly in front of it, but I do feel the breeze hitting this wall and coming my way. Because it's so cold, you kind of notice it. Standing right in front of it, let's call it 6 feet away, no more than 8 feet away, because this is a big tent. That's a substantial breeze. So you could kind of put this long ways down your body, like put it at your feet, blow it towards you, and you would feel that breeze. I can still feel it Yeah, off to the side, I feel it coming from that direction. When you get in this area, you're not getting much benefit, but that's what we really want to know is how does this feel when you're letting it run consistently 15, 20 minutes going from outside to inside. So let's exit and then we'll test that out. Okay, zipping up. And as I'm zipping up, I'm realizing that it's a pretty quiet operation. You can come out here and, oh wow, that's blowing some hot air. It's really expelling some hot air there. See how it's moving the grass? It's moving some air substantially. So you don't want that anywhere inside your tent. You want to exhaust that out and away. But from the outside, I can tell you, you can probably hear on the mic, there's almost no noise. It sounds about as loud as a fan. So if you're worried about disturbing people, I would say don't worry about that. It's a pretty undercover setup from the outside. You wouldn't really know that someone's running an air conditioner in there. So while we're giving this time to cool down, I thought I would show you just so you know it's not hyperbole. Currently 93 degrees here where I'm at. If my sweating brow wasn't enough, I know you're probably not unfamiliar with watching me sweat on this channel, but I looked it up and we've got 3,500 BTUs on this air conditioner. Now, a regular RV air conditioner can be anywhere from like 12,000 to 16,000 BTU. So it's a much smaller capacity. They say that it runs at about 55 decibels, and that's kind of hard to test in an open environment like this, but 55 decibels is about the level of a conversation. And I would say that's pretty accurate because you can talk over this. And like I said, it's pretty quiet from the outside. So we're nearing 15 minutes, which is the time in which BougeRV claims you can drop 18 degrees inside a tent. So that's really what I'm looking for, is what does it feel like when we go from outside to inside? So let's try that out. All right, here we go. Let's unzip. Don't want to let the cold air out. Oh, wow. Yes. This is truly much, much, much cooler. I don't know if it's 18 degrees cooler, but wow. Now, knowing that it's 93 degrees outside, that's the ambient temperature, it would have to bring this down to about 75 degrees to be 18 degrees cooler than it is outside. And I would say it's much, much more comfortable in here. My gut says probably not 75 degrees in here because, you know, 75 is just a little warmer than most people keep their homes at, like 72. But I can definitely tell you, even when you're not in front of this, you feel much cooler in this space. And we've got some vents up there that are allowing hot air to escape. The top of this tent is kind of open. And this is what I mean. If you look out, this is just a vent to the outside. So we're not completely sealed up, yet it's still changing the ambient temperature in here to a relative degree. Like, you can tell it's much cooler in here after running 10 to 15. We're going on, you know, almost 20 minutes inside here. And if you let this run for a good long while, I imagine it would bring the temperature in here down to a tolerable place. I think I would be tempted just to sleep right down here next to it. But I think the whole point of a device like this is not to turn your tent into a hotel room. Nobody who tent camps wants that. But to bring the temperature inside down to a tolerable place. On a day like this, when it's 93 outside, it could be 95 to 100 inside. And it certainly was earlier before we had this running. Now, we can bring the temperature down maybe below 80 degrees. Keep it more comfortable in the evenings as the sun goes away. Maybe get it into the mid to low 70s, which would allow everyone in here to sleep more comfortably. And it's not loud, it's not difficult to set up, and all it requires is a connection to a regular household outlet, which you'll have if you're at a traditional campsite setup with hookups. Now, for the purposes of our current test, we've been running it with the air conditioning unit inside, which is the way I see it in most pictures and videos from the brand. But what I also noticed is that this vent, which was venting our hot air outside of the tent, it fits on the front of the air conditioner. So if we move it back, this same vent clips in to the front like that. you could leave the unit outside and blow the cold air inside. Now, honestly, because it's so quiet, I'm not sure that that is completely necessary, and it would leave your unit out in the elements. But if you wanted to do that, you could. So let me run my extension cord out here and test that real quick to see if there's any discernible difference in the amount of cold air you're getting with the unit outside versus inside. I'm gonna shorten my tube here. Did any of you have popoids as a kid? We used to play with these things that looked exactly like this hose. They were called popoids. I don't know. I'm shortening this down to as short as I can. I'm gonna zip it up here. I'm gonna turn on the unit. Same settings as before. We're gonna do some turbo, and then we're gonna see after 15 minutes if it feels cooler in there with the unit outside than it does inside. So there's a look at our setup here, and my initial opinion is, yes, this might lead to some cooler results because the unit itself is a little warm. Even though it's expelling the hot air here, which we had this hose hooked up to before, this body is a little warm, and having this warm unit inside the tent is just adding to the heat. So pumping it full of cold air, having everything outside, might just lead to some cooler, more comfortable results. But in 15 minutes, we will see. Okay, this has been running for about 15 minutes here with the tube inside, the unit outside. Let's unzip and go in quickly. Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. Now, granted, this had a head start because we already had some cool air in here, but it is significantly cooler with just the tube in here, the unit outside. I think if you have the opportunity to do that, this is much, much more efficient. That's going to be my guess. And the direction of this tube can also affect that as well. We kind of have it pointing toward the side, which doesn't seem the most efficient, but you can turn it like that. It's rigid. You can kind of form it. Yeah, I got to say, this is it. And it feels super, super quiet in here. I know the unit wasn't altogether that loud to begin with, but this is pretty quiet. And I gotta say, that is definitely the way to go. If you're testing it, unit inside versus unit outside, I'm going unit outside all day long because it feels closer to 70, 72 degrees in here right now. And I think I'm just gonna lay down and take a nap. Okay. I'll get up and finish the video. So I gotta say, it's a pretty compact setup. Not a lot of frills. Nothing you can really mess up. It's just an air conditioning box with a hose. Pretty simple. And yeah, after running for about an hour in total now, we're starting to see some condensation here on the outside of the unit. Probably because of the cold air that's leaving right here and just the overall heat and humidity outside. But we didn't see that when it was inside. So there are a lot of reasons why you would want the unit inside. But I think if you're looking for the coldest experience, you know you're not going to have wet weather, or maybe you have a cover over top of this, like an outer tent. This would be the way to go because I think you get quieter, colder results with the unit outside. Whew, just stepping outside for a few minutes and I'm already sweating again. But I tell you what, this has been one of the more interesting tests we have done because not a product that I would have ever sought out or said, ooh, I want one of those. Because when I think of tent camping, I think of roughing it and campfire cooking and being a little hot or being a little cold. The discomfort is a part of the camping experience. And if I want comfort, I'll go into an RV or a hotel. But I think something like this could be useful for people who want to take the edge off. People that maybe need a little convincing to go camping. This might make it a little bit more enjoyable. And while it's an air conditioner that weighs 30 to 40 pounds, so you can't just throw it anywhere, you can easily transport this in the back of a truck or a trailer, not worry about it breaking. I wouldn't advise dropping it from the tailgate to the ground. It has a little bit of fragility to it, but I think if you take care of it, a unit like this could serve you well for several seasons, and it's really not all that expensive. So if this is something that interests you, I've left a link in the description down below. Thanks again to our video sponsor. Thank you to you for watching. As always, if you're new, be sure to subscribe. New videos about camping, RVing, and the outdoors every single Saturday. My name is Joel. This is the Traveler Toolkit, and I'll see you in the next video.